Welcome to The Feedback, where we ask the important questions like, is the crackdown on corruption genuine or just a sideshow?
Or is it okay for a Christian to date a ZANU-PF supporter?
So today, as we discuss corruption, we have two very special guests with us here at Pariah State as we discuss this topic. If they can just introduce themselves for us.
My name is Njabulo Ncube. I'm the national coordinator of the Zimbabwe National Editors Forum. I'm also the former deputy editor of Newsday and the former assistant editor of the Financial Gazette. I'm happy to be on the show.
And I'm Tendai Bobo with the Zimbabwe Coalition on Data and Development. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today on The Feedback. Maybe just to kick off the program, what are your views? Maybe I'll start with you, Mr. Ncube. What are your views on the fight against corruption? The current president, when he was campaigning, he was talking quite a lot about corruption and he was saying zero tolerance to corruption. What are your views on that, seeing as we've gone about 12 months into since November 2017?
Yeah, it's quite an interesting topic to discuss. If you consider that corruption in Zimbabwe is ubiquitous, it cuts across all sectors of the economy, and I'm sure that the president knows that the elephant in the room in Zimbabwe is corruption. But they say that the taste of the pudding is in the eating. So we are actually watching to see how far is going to go. Is it going to walk the talk?
But maybe just to take a step back and to say, on the feed, most of our audience are young people. So maybe just to, especially I think to you, Ms. Bobo, just to explain to them who is affected by corruption. Why does it even matter that there is corruption? And maybe just to explain how you think young people are affected by corruption, bearing in mind that, in the last election, 60% of the voters were the youth. So we just like to find out how the youth are affected by corruption.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I would like to come back to your to what you said. 60% of the youth voted. I think in their minds they were saying our vote is our change, something like that. But they were surprised to learn that that's not the issue, especially in a Zimbabwean context where elections can be bought, where where ZEC, as the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, cannot do anything except what they are told to do by what? By the presidency, something like that. So where am I coming from? The youths right now, we've got the youths. You've got more than 90% unemployment rate amongst the youths just from 18 to 35 years. They are unemployed. They are in the streets. They are being affected by drug abuse. They are being affected by, all sorts of abuse, even by these same politicians. When they want a pool of to manipulate the pool, a pool of youths just to feed into their elections. They are just manipulating the youths. And at the end of the day, I think let me bring this issue from the debt issue, the national debt. We know that currently our national public debt, it's ranging somewhere around 18 billion. It's 18 billion, and the Zimbabwean population right now, it's about maybe around 14 million. It means that before you even talk of your Edgar's credit account, you already have 1,000 United States dollars written at your forehead. Even the children, we are talking of the youths. The children, our youths are going to bear in the future. They've got that debt legacy, debt burden from all this, the mess that is currently going on. So what are we saying? What's contributing to this? To the national debt? Let me give an example. That the government, they assumed the RBZ debt about 1.3 billion. They assumed it from RBZ. The RBZ had accumulated this debt from, that quasi-fiscal programs they were implementing trying to saying we are servicing the agricultural sector. You know that pakatengwa machinery agriculture achipiwa mashefu anditika izvozvo zvimatractor mamwe akangogara pana zvaari kuita and vanhu ivavo vapenyu anditika asi the burden anditika because chikwereti chiya chakatorwa chikaiswa kunational if kana yaiswa panational chikwereti chava public debt it means it's guaranteed by you and me kana madhara aya akapera kufa mangwana chikwereti chinobhadhirwa nani nemayouth. I want to show how critical this is to the youth anditika kuti where do you come in as youth, and also to say chikwereti chichavapo anditika vakuenda kunzoko vachitry kuti how can we sustainably they call it sustainable debt management. And if you see at the proposals on how they want to sustainably manage the debt, they want to mortgage our natural resources. Are you getting what I'm saying? They want to mortgage our natural resources to pay what? These debts that we have. If they mortgage, it means maybe 5 generations to come. Ma resources edu anenge vana veku Britain vanouya vachiti zvoni ma resources ari kwamarange ndeedu bepa rakasainwa iri. You see how dangerous this is just for the youth. But zviri kukonzerwa nei? It's just corruption. Inyaya yecorruption chete. Saka in a nutshell, I think this is very critical for the youth, especially to participate, to raise their voices and deny and I think resist all forms of corruption for a better future, to build their future.
So you've talked about the national debt and how, I think it's shocking how each one of us owes about $1,000 US, by the way, not bond notes. So maybe just to follow up on that, to say, so what role can Parliament possibly play in ensuring that we don't accumulate more debt? Because surely Parliament must have a role to play in terms of calling the executive to account in terms of how they use the natural resources and how they actually utilize the available resources. So do you think Parliament has a role, or you think Parliament is a toothless bulldog, or you think there's more that can be done to empower Parliament?
Thank you so much. I think recently the ZISCO debt assumption bill was passed in Parliament after so many citizens have participated in the consultation process to say no, you mustn't assume this date, the ZISCO still date, because it's where it is now because of what? Poor management in government institutions. So we are saying Parliament, they are captured as well due to the whipping system. They are afraid of the whipping system to say citizens. The committee knows, and Chapfika gave the report to say that the citizens, they refused the assumption of the ZISCO still assumption bill, but they went on and assumed the date. Why? Because they are afraid of what? The executive to say ini kana ndiro kuzanu PF anditika if ndikatopasisa kuti zvoni vanhu varamba katoti ngarege kutorwa chikwereti ichi ndatodini ndinodzingwa kupati kana ndadzingwa kupati then you are nothing hanzoni kana kangobuda muzanu PF wakutonotonorwa kunze. So they don't want that, the whipping system. They are afraid of that. So the Parliament also, I think that's another issue as youth as well, to work with Parliament and see how we can strengthen each other's oversight role. Thank you.
Can I come in there around the issue of youth? I think the youth, like you mentioned, contributed 60% of the total number of voters in this election. I have a problem in that the youth, they have allowed to be used by young, young youth. You understand what I mean? So they should actually be in the forefront of defining who is youth.
Exactly.
Right now, you find youth at our respective political parties being led by old youths. You understand? The youths have allowed that to happen for a long time. Hence, this where we are now. Our youth have no voice. From where I'm seated in the media, if we want to look for a youth to speak in the newspaper, they bring you a 59-year-old young youth. I mean, so the challenge I'm putting to the youth is seize your space. Lobby Parliament as youth. Get rid of these old young youths That's my plea. Because if you go to the current parliament, it is represented by old young youth.
And also maybe just to encourage the youth to say we need to work with the Auditor General's office. And also pursue, what the Auditor General, they are trying by all means to put recommendations to curb corruption. Kunana Zimbabwe, kunana Zisco, kunana GMB, everywhere they are trying their best. But I think as youth we need to work with the Auditor General's report because their recommendation and push for the implementation of their recommendations so that our future is what is brighter in terms of what issues to do with corruption. That's a very key institution to work with.
Yes.
But do we also know what happened to the youth fund? I think at some point there was a talk of a lot of money that was given to different banks for youth to access, and I think there were some reports in the media that some people were in the 50s were accessing the loans. So was there any? Do you know if there was any follow up to that, or we just died a natural death?
Yeah, the issue was brought to Parliament 2 weeks ago, where it was found that I think 60% of the loans taken by so-called youths were not repaid, and we had nothing from the youth wings of all the political parties that are registered in this country, which speaks of a sad situation about the participation of our youth in politics. But having said that, even the ordinary youth that is not politically affiliated is complicit in corruption in Zimbabwe. Where I'm seated in the media, you find youths coming from universities and colleges engaging in corrupt activities to be given internships. I have cases of youths, girls being abused by editors. There's a lot of sexual harassment in newsrooms. It takes two to tango, isn't it? You see? So we might blame the political elite for corruption, but our youth are complicit in the corruption.
So maybe Mr. Bobo, building from that, can you tell us what exactly, Ms. Bobo, may you tell us what exactly our youth should do in order for them to take an active role in the fight against corruption? I know that you said they should be part of the Auditor General's department, but maybe just a bit more on what you think the youth's role is in the fight against corruption.
Okay, I think as the youths, I think we were in last week in Penalonga. The youths, they were saying that, especially to do with the youth fund, they said the same people who were getting the money, who were accessing the money since long back, they are the same people that continue to get the money from the youth fund. So my opinion is to say, I think the youths themselves, they have to caucus amongst themselves and stay away from politics, because this is about development. As long as we politicize our development, if we approach development in a partisan way, we won't go anywhere. Let's come together as youth and try we put aside our differences and bring development on the table and see how best can we approach it, so that at the end everyone benefits. The issue of politicization of development processes, I think that's an issue amongst youth as well.
Wow, what a very, very interesting session on corruption and how it is affecting us as the youth of Zimbabwe. Now we're just going to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, we'll be discussing, is it okay for a Christian to date a ZANU-PF supporter? Hi guys, and welcome back to the second segment of the feedback. Now we're going to be discussing something that I saw on the social media and it's been floating around the whole of this week. And the question is it okay for a Christian to marry a ZANU-PF supporter? I mean, guys, munu e ZANU-PF munu. So what do you guys think? Do you think it's okay?
I would say people are bitter. So I think such discussions, they are an expression of how people are, they've got that pressure, things are not moving, then they just point to to ZANU-PF, you know. I think that's the background. Say people are hungry, all the chaos, and you know, they resort to some of these discussions. I think, yeah.
But don't you think that points to a high level of intolerance within the country, for example? To say, you know, why should one person's support of a particular political party affect their personal relationships?
Yeah, political intolerance is very, very, very high in Zimbabwe. I know of families that belong to different political parties, ZANU-PF and MDC alliance, that don't meet under one roof or attend same funerals because they belong to different political parties. That is that culture is wrong, and that mindset needs to be changed. And it all stops at the doors of the politicians.
I would give another example to say Murume Mumba I support ZANU-PF anditika. Then Mukadzi, his brother, I took up in MP or MDC in the same constituents. Now Mukadzi I support ubudu wake. Baba vachisapota chi ZANU-PF. Saka brother sekuru vemukwasha pavakadyiwa vakabva vati kumukadzi chitakura mabhega komudi muende nabudhi vako, you know. So these are real issues actually. You know, tiri kuseka zvedu but zvinoitika. Saka I think it's how we take it as, you know, it depends.
Yeah, it brings us back to what is politics. I mean, what is politics? Politics is about who eats what when. If you eat in ZANU-PF and I eat at MDC alliance, we meet in the bedroom and share the spoils. So it's about this politics of the stomach, no more, no less. But unfortunately, because of intolerance, polarization, we have a situation whereby people are actually refusing to share a mark of Masese because you belong to MDC alliance, you belong to ZANU-PF. Hence, this social media debate that a Christian should not marry a ZANU-PF person or vice versa, giving a perception that ZANU-PF is by its nature evil.
Okay.
Understand? So anything that is evil is not associated with Christianity. You understand?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe just to take you back to social media again, because I think we noticed also during just after the election results were announced, there was a lot of talk as well about the results, and we had some people saying, you know, if you have relatives Kumusha, don't send them money so that they know not to vote for ZANU-PF. So would you say that is also within the same level of people being intolerant of each other? Because these are people who were saying, look, even if you're in the diaspora and you've been sending money to your Ambuya or Amai Kumusha, if they support ZANU-PF, don't send the money anymore. Do you think it's in the same level of intolerance?
Yeah, but I attribute that to political naivety in that the political elite, they eat among themselves from across the political divide. I'm aware of MDC politicians that are doing business with the ZANU-PF politicians. Yet the grassroots, we are made to fight each other. Like I mentioned earlier, politics is the art of the possible. Politics is who eats what, when, and how. You know?
But doesn't the Bible also somewhere talk about forgiveness and something like
Exactly.
that? So yeah, so how does that come into it? Because I thought the idea was that if you're a Christian and you know, are you not then supposed to relate with people that you think need saving, for example, if that's what you think?
Yeah. No, I hear where you're coming from, biblical things. But if you really scrutinize the church, the broader church in Zimbabwe, you find that most people that are associated with ZANU-PF are in the Pentecostal churches. Yeah? The traditional churches, your Roman Catholic churches, church, your Anglican, you find that it is rare to find people that hold positions in ZANU-PF. I'm actually perplexed why why it is like that. But it is actually there for everyone who has eyes to see that traditional churches tend to have more people in the opposition, and the new churches have aligned to ZANU-PF, and this has also been seen at public gatherings where you find pastors from Pentecostal churches officiating at ZANU-PF gatherings, including high-profile gatherings. But you can't find fathers, priests from the Roman Catholic churches coming to ZANU-PF churches. It's quite something which needs to be investigated, because it perpetuates the polarization I spoke about, the intolerance I spoke about. You see, so Zimbabwe is quite a complex situation that needs political scientists to decipher what is happening. Maybe we're cursed.
No, we're not.
Wow, what an amazing, interesting discussion here on the very first episode of The Feedback. Now, what you can take away from this is that our media is highly polarized and something needs to change. Now, what you can also take away from this is that you need to be very, very careful who you get in bed with. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time here at The Feedback.